Profit first. And I say this a lot. One of my favorite chapters, though, destroying debt. The fact is, debt. We always hear this thing about good debt, bad debt. As the Bible says, the borrower is slave to the lender. There's no such thing as good debt. And debt, as Dave Ramsey says, is just financial whining. So we got to look at how we're going to crush this. And I love the models that are put in here that we're going to talk about today on starting to move our financial pendulum over to making sure that we start getting debt out of our life, and more importantly, never bring it back in again because we built the business correctly. So that being said, chapter 7, boys and girls, what do you guys got? Josh, I see you're up, and then Carrie, I'll come to you.
Man, the pitfall of having your mic on when coach talks to you before class starts. Yeah, I've always been very debt averse. And so this is a nice reminder that you just never want to get into that situation, because you're right, you are a slave. And I try to counsel clients on stuff like that. And obviously I'm not a CPA or a financial planner, so I limit my recommendations. But all this resonated very, very strongly with me and always has. So I don't have a ton to contribute other than that.
Well, and that's perfect. And again, there are moments, very, very rare moments, where we will leverage the tool of debt to accelerate us, though it's rare. Like a mortgage is one, because you want to get into home ownership. Then you should be laser focused on getting that gone. I always love these conversations. A mortgage is a tax write-off. So rather than putting $100 in your pocket, you're going to save $15 on your taxes. That's why we want to get it gone. And I will also tell you that if you are in debt, you are in poverty. As he opens the chapter, well-dressed poverty is still poverty. People that are living a huge life, looking great, playing the Facebook game, and are just doing it off debt, are still ultimately just 1 month away, as he says. Whoa! My screen just jumped for some reason because something updated. I'm like, what the heck happened? I'm glad I have you guys still. Anyway, this well-dressed poverty piece, I would much rather see you guys living within your means, getting rid of the debt, than attempting to put on a show on Facebook of look how great life is. Okay? What else do you guys have from the content?
So for this, because this might be the only chapter I ever talk about. So this was a good chapter for me. I understood it really well. And there was a part where when I was reading last night, it brought in that other book that we read. So it says, absolutely, we do, just one more day. So, and that was on page 126. And so that's what they were saying. And then I don't know, it was just easier for me to read this and be like, okay, I can do it. I can work through this chapter. I can do this. It's all good. It just made me feel like I could work through it and not just be reading it.
Absolutely. Like, all of you can take the action steps on this chapter. So what you're talking about is on page 126, and this very simple action step. When you think you need to buy something, add, as we learned from the power of one more, this one more day technique. Gosh, we need it. Yeah, we can wait one more day to get it. We can wait one more day to get it. Okay, if it isn't absolutely necessary today, keep pushing it off. The money stays in your account. You still have some build on that. And then when the time comes, if you really need it, you will. And a lot of times you don't. And here's another piece I want to make sure we get in right now. Right again from the beginning of the chapter. Too many entrepreneurs believe the top line is what defines success. And we see that in real estate all the time. I'm a $20 million producer. I'm a $10 million producer, whatever number they give themselves to celebrate their success. Or maybe, man, I'm going to make 500,000 GCI this year. Well, the real question should be, how much are you taking home to your family? That's what really matters most. And are we really just taking enough home to the family to keep the business rolling forward? Most people in real estate are taking too much home, not setting aside for taxes, not setting aside for expenses, and just digging themselves a hole. Because again, if you borrow from the government by not paying your taxes during the year, that hole is going to show up April 15th at the latest. You have something else to add, Carrie?
No, I do not. Not really. I think you covered that pretty well.
I see your mic hot. That's why I was asking. Who else? Mr. Justin, the floor is yours.
On the bottom, like second to last paragraph, page 115. I'm gonna do the third, the second person, whatever. At first, Pete was confused. Why was I talking about profit when he was so far in the hole? You may be feeling this way too. I get it. It's awfully hard to think about profit, let alone plan for it when your situation is as dire as Pete's. You may not have $1 million in debt. I'll bet that whatever debt you're carrying feels at times as though it might as well be $1 million. This part stuck out. The ultimate survival moment. If you focus all of your energy on paying down debt, that's all you'll ever achieve. You'll be caught up in that, like you're saying, the trap of top line thinking. The difference was not so much the top line thinking for me as the focus. I think if we're focused on that debt all the time, that's what we continue to vibrate with, manifest, see, experience in life is debt. So that focus needs to shift to profit and what I'm going to pay myself so that I feel good, so there's incentive to keep going, and shift the focus. I've been struggling with this. I've asked you this like specific question. Can you put the book to lay it out right here for me? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Justin, because literally everything you just put in the room was in my notes to make sure got in the room. Because we know what you focus on expands, where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're constantly talking about debt, you're actually not going to get out of it. If you focus on profit first, you're going to build the company. And then, like he says in here, you're going to use 99% of the profit to eliminate debt. You're still going to focus on the profit and getting that going. And then you're going to be shifting that profit to pay down debt. And here's the fun part. Once the debt's gone, the profit has continued to grow and expand. And all of a sudden you have a windfall. It's pretty cool. What else?
I'd like to share something.
Absolutely, Lynn, and welcome. It's great to see you.
Sorry, guys, I'm outside walking my dog, and I apologize. But anyway, it's interesting. I've just joined this group, and I'm not caught up with what y'all are talking about on everything in the book, but I am listening. But I found this interesting. I had a conversation with a gentleman last night who is a friend of mine, and he's a top producer for a big, well-known company. And he's in total debt right now, and he hasn't paid his taxes in 8 years. And my heart just sunk, because that's what you think you see. And when you see Facebook and you're like, There are these big producers, there are these big producers, there are these huge producers, and you're always seeing that. But yet you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, you know? And it broke my heart for him, but it's an easy thing to get caught up in, especially in real estate. Not paying your taxes or not putting aside stuff. So I'm getting a whole lot great information out of this book, and I'm glad that you introduced it to me. I really am. So thank you, Russ. And that's all I wanted to say, is that things aren't always as they seem, you know?
So I want to throw, because this is your first day here, I want to throw a couple of kind of house rules in the room for you. Number one, I want you being the authentic you in the space. So out walking your dog, awesome. You weren't here yesterday. Celeste was here doing her makeup in the room. I want you here. I want you plugging in. And if something else is happening, that's awesome. Number two, you never have to apologize for being the authentic you. So it's rare that Russ is ever accepting or looking for an apology. It's always our habit to do that. And I want to break those habits. And finally, number three, for you and everybody else in the room, if you've got somebody in this hole, let me step in, get an appointment with me to help them. Because just like, again, the beginning of chapter 7, as he's talking about, you know, I was working on writing my first version. I had plans to go see my friend Pete and have dinner with Pete. And I got a phone call from him. And the call was not what I expected. I'm sorry, Mike, I can't do dinner this weekend, Pete said, his voice strained. Damn, that sucks. I was really looking forward to it, but no problem, brother. Let's reschedule. Let me look at my calendar. What's going on? You headed out of town? Yeah, well, not really. I'm broke, Mike. I'm broke. He had $1 million line of credit called and was unprofitable and didn't have $1 million. And no matter how big the hole someone in, we can put a plan together to help them get out. Most of the time when someone's in that hole, they can't see the light, they can't see a way out. And 99 out of 100 times, they just keep digging until someone starts shoveling over the top and burying them. I want to help you. So Lynn, please, I'm begging you to have another conversation. Let them know about your senior partner, coach. I just want to have a conversation with him to put a plan together to help him get this behind him and behind him quickly. Okay. I see the head nod. Perfect. What else you guys
Thank
have
you.
from the content? Julianne, then Josh. What do you guys have?
Just a quick note. It's like the on the whole debt thing. The best time to do it, you know, was 5 years ago. But the next best time to do it is right now. And so the mentality is to quit beating yourself up for the mistakes of the past, because they're no longer mistakes if you learn from them. If you keep doing them over and over and over again, then what happens? It's still a mistake. Learn from them and move forward and start now. When you start now, that's when you've learned, and that's change, and that's a shift. And that's what this whole chapter is about.
Yeah, one of our house rules, if you will, there is no failure, only feedback. Everything you do, if it didn't go as planned, it's not a failure. It's not a mistake, as Julianne used in her words. It's just feedback. Let's learn from it and move forward. Josh, you're up.
Yeah. Following on what Julianne said, you almost had to have been in this situation and gone through I'm going to move this credit card to this credit card to extend and get a zero. I mean, you remember when balance transfers didn't have the 3% of the balance rule? Like you could move a credit card to another zero. This was like 10 or 15 years ago, maybe longer, actually probably 20 years ago. And you really, I mean, you could get creative with it. Nowadays, and one of the recommendation he makes on page 130, or 120, 125. They're recurring fees. A friend of mine actually told me that you could do this when you wanted to, when you couldn't get rid of one of those recurring fees, like you called and you stopped it and you're like, wait, I'm not using this. You do call your credit card company and ask them for a new number. No, it's not lost. It's not, but I don't want any recurring charges to continue to hit this card. It works. Like, that's one, if you have to, that's one way to get out of, and we're in the day and age where you can have a recurring, like you can click a button on your phone, right? And have a recurring app charge. And if you don't stop and take a look, those things add up. I mean, $8 here, $12 there, $3 there. Before you know it, it's 150, 200 bucks a month. And that ends up being 1,800 to 2,500 bucks a year. And you just forget about it. And so these are some really good tips. But also what Julianne said is right. You have to make that, you have to put your ego aside if you're caught in one of these situations, and you've got to help yourself, because if you wait too long and you just stick your head in the sand, you're going to cause yourself only a much, much bigger problem.
Well, in post writing this, he has implemented some new tools. If you look at the Bank Like Mike Relay platform, they have virtual credit card numbers. I think it comes with up to 25 or 50 virtual credit card numbers. So a virtual credit card number, you literally can assign a card to a recurring, because in our world now, there are some things that will only allow you to purchase with a recurring credit card. There may even be, doing some of the extended stuff in your KV core for marketing. You got to put a card in, it's on recurring. Well, if you use the Relay app, it's a virtual Visa rather than a real one. The only thing you put on that is that one item. And then in the future, when you want to cancel it, all you have to do is cancel the card and it's done. So know that technology is evolving. There's always new ways, and you just got to keep open-minded to these new systems that are out there that you can plug into rather than get stuck in your old ways. Who else has something from chapter 7? Who else actually read chapter 7? Let's start there.
I read chapter 7. It
I
says
know you did because you're plugging back in.
it says if you want to get debt, you must get more enjoyment out of saving. You must get more enjoyment out of saving than spending. So when that was happening, I don't know. So I was like, okay. I don't know that. I mean, yes, I would love to have more fun saving than not saving.
So here's one of the ways you can make that shift, Carrie. And we used to do it, and I may this week or next week is this room run that exercise. I've been debating it. Is a pain and pleasure exercise we used to do, because the right now, every decision you make in the world is based on those two primal forces, pain and pleasure. The pursuit of pleasure, the avoidance of pain. And most people are short-term thinking in the moment. They aren't paying attention to what the long-term looks like and bringing that long-term to now. So a great example, spending on, $100 on going out to dinner versus cooking at home, and you really don't want to cook at home today for the family of 4. In the short run, the pain is the cooking, the pain is the hassle, the pain is the cleaning, and the pleasure is somebody else taking care of me and eating. Awesome. And yet, as you move that out, and if you just look at an actuarial table, what would that $100 today look like 20 years from now? So the pleasure is knowing what that number looks like. And more importantly, the pain is knowing right now you can't retire. We all dream of retiring, of not having to work. And yet most of the faces I see here on my screen are not in a position where that's really going to happen, where they get to retire successfully. Some of you can retire and live poor and live below your means and get your Social Security and survive. I intend for you to thrive. So let's get into this emotional thing again that Carrie just brought in. Because right below that, the next paragraph down on page 117, wealth is a game of emotion. You got to get emotional about it. That's why pain and pleasure are so effective. Business success is a game of emotion. And there's going to be highs and lows. You can use that emotion to keep you propelling forward, maybe get you plugged in here more. Profit first is a game of emotion. And it all comes down to the story we tell ourselves about what we're doing. See, every single one of us here is living a story based on our filters, deletions, and distortions that we create. It's our reality. And we get to choose that story. I put it in these terms. We're all living a hallucination of our own making. So why not choose to make it a great one, right? Let's have a great trip. This whole idea of rose-colored glasses is pretty freaking awesome. And I will tell you, it has worked out incredibly well for me. Yeah, there's been downs. Yeah, there's been tough times. And yet this life of optimism that I was lucky enough to pick up from my mom and continue to grow and build upon has truly made a difference. So I'm challenging you guys on this financial piece, even if it's just the 1% right now. A $10,000 commission turns into $100 in the profit account. And that's $100 you've never done before. Celebrate it. Julianne, you're up.
Oh, on that same page 117, this analogy, because I'm all about like picture, I want to see the pictures. And this is, if savings makes you happy, well, I will talk about, look at this. I got this $200 dress for $65 when I did this and this and this, and I saved all this money. And, it's great. I brag at grocery stores. I'm like, look at this cake. It was on clearance for $6. I mean, my family makes fun of me for how much I like to brag about how much I saved. Right here, it's like it was written just for me. When something makes you happy in the moment, you'll keep doing it. If spending makes you happy, you'll spend more. And then that spending could be on anything from a new pair of pants to a new hire or a mountain of debt. If savings makes you happy, you'll look for the opportunity to save more. Coupons, sales, bargains, bliss, bargain bins, it's heaven. But isn't savings 100% because you eliminated the spending entirely? Then should that be nirvana?
And so we get to go through and pick those things spending today and get them out of our lives. So I want to spend a little time today at the end of this setting up where we're going with this content and into next week. Because as you know, next week is, for me, I'll be at EXPCon. So there may be days where I have got appointments with other people and I will not be in this room. And if we stay on track, we're actually wrapping up the content Tuesday or Wednesday. So here's what I expect all of you to do in this room is keep this room going, even if I'm not there, and make it a workshop where you're actually talking through the work you're doing and taking action right then in those 30 minutes. Once the content's done, the rest of the week, workshop the content. So if you haven't set up your accounts yet, come clean in the room you haven't done it and get online and set up accounts. If you haven't made a move, do that. If you've actually received a commission check in Profit First, share it and celebrate it. Talk about the debt you've eliminated and the analysis you've done. All of those things next week to really implement this content. The following Monday the 4th, we are kicking it old school. I'm going to give you guys the list right now. We are going old school to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. We'll start that on the 4th. Lots of people should be in here plugging in on that. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. The following skill set book will be Jeffrey Gitomer, Little Red Book of Selling, which I'm telling you now is checklists and details and things that you can implement quick. And then after that, we will bounce into Michael Gerber, the E-Myth Revisited, to get you guys thinking bigger about your business. So Think and Grow Rich, Little Red Book of Selling, E-Myth Revisited. I got all three of those sitting in my Amazon cart right now. So I will make sure I have them here. And it's fun because I'm building 2 libraries. I got my Puerto Rico library now, and I still have my other library stuffed in boxes sitting in storage in Huntsville, Alabama, Josh. It's all still there.
Gitomer's a good.
um,
Go ahead.
what was that?
I
Carrie?
was going to say Jeffrey Gitomer is a great author. I've read some of his
Absolutely.
books before. It
Yep.
was fun to read the books that I read.
So today it is Wednesday for you guys. Know that we have Wired Wednesdays, 1 to 2 o'clock Central, where you can get help implementing your KV core at a higher level. Maria is in there. She is an absolute expert. And if you guys just spend that hour every week plussing your KV core, or even just getting it set up right now, amazing things are going to happen.